get him next time.
Give out the fishing flop.
That damn crowd pops his head out. This is gonna pop him. There's no way Hitler's made a device for the STG44 that bends it at 30 degrees so we can fire around an obstacle that will last approximately 300 rounds.
Say hello to Coca-Cola.
Hitler, no. Man, if only I didn't have to expose myself when I fired this STG44 assault rifle. If only Nazi Germany had come up with some crazy, insane, come on in Charles, some crazy, insane method of firing around an obstacle without, why do you have to make it? So right here we have a Krumlov device. This is without a doubt probably one of the most bizarre implements that I've ever seen designed in a war. This is actually an attachment that attaches to an STG44 and curves 30 to 45 degrees, so kind of like you, Micah,
yeah.
And will allow you to shoot around some type of barricade. We have a mirror that has its own sights that line up at the front sight on here, and in theory, this is a good idea. Now, what I need you guys to understand, and we have to give a big thank you to PSA because Jamin allowed us to fire this from his personal collection and all that goodness, but these are extremely rare. They never went into general production. Only a couple hundred were made, and fewer still made it to the United States. And these barrels will only last a few hundred rounds at most. We are being allowed to fire 15 rounds through this. The price on these barrels is, what would you say, Micah?
Whatever it's worth to the person who wants it, also known as priceless.
Priceless. These are priceless. The fact that we're able to even fire this is incredible. Today on Grantham, we're going to be doing a full test on the Krumlov bent barrel, aka the Micah barrel.
It's so hard not to just flag people.
But before we get into that, we of course have to thank the biggest sponsor of the channel, is whom, Charles?
Slutty dumb inbreeders.
That's gonna that's the end of that. The Sonoran Desert Institute. If you're looking to get your start in gunsmithing, they are the people that we recommend. They keep the content, what, Charles?
Free and flowing,
they keep
like
free.
pretty much everyone after 1865.
And of course, Micah, who can we not forget?
Primary Arms, proudly providing you with, I think they made that optic. The one on your back.
The Krumlov
and that
optic.
Yeah,
they did not, but if you're looking to get optics at a great price, you can get almost anything you want there, except for that particular guy right there. Primary Arms, we love them. And of course, if you want to get better at shooting, we recommend dry fire.
With Mantis. Take it anywhere, shoot without the freak out. I pulled it out at my grandma's funeral. Everyone was so excited.
It's going to turn your firearm into a dry fire machine. We love Mantis. My employees stole all of my Mantis devices, so I actually had to buy some for myself. Go and check them out. We love them. And of course, all ammunition today is brought out by AAC. A big thank you to them.
Does AAC make 6mm curves?
They don't, but they bought the ammo so that we could use it. So, you know, hey, thank you.
Thank you, AAC.
Yeah, thank you, AAC. The first thing that we're going to test is something that the U.S. Army noted after they captured these weapons and tested them at the Aberdeen Proving Grounds, which was that due to the intense curvature of the barrel, the bullet would apparently break apart. What this meant was that the bullet came out in several fragments when it would impact the target. We're going to be testing this on gel to start. The round is also traveling slower as it exits. We're going to be testing the overall performance of the 7.92 Kurs as it goes through gel. And we'll see how accurate this is as well. Okay, honestly, this thing is actually so hard to aim. So I'm at kind of a weird angle right here, so we're just gonna do our best. Okay. Oh, boy. Jesus.
Dude, it shot way to the left.
We did get an impact. It was just like, do you see it? It like just kind of skimmed the side. That is definitely off, because that shot felt good. I think if I aim to the right, I could get it. So we're at 14 shots left. Do we try it one
scoot
more time?
a little closer?
Yeah. All right, Micah, good?
Yep. There we go. You got it.
Oh, baby. You know what? That actually, I don't think that broke apart. I think that came out as a single slug. It did.
No, that's intact.
Is the U.S. Army, were they just so scared of Hitler's secret weapon that they said that it was bad? And the performance is actually, how would you characterize the performance, Charles?
I would put it this way. They may not have won the war, but today they won our hearts.
Are we allowed to say that?
As far as I know, this is the first footage I know of the Krumlov being fired outside of Army training videos in like 1946. So the fact that we're firing this right now is incredible, because I do want to be very clear. These rounds traveling through this bent barrel is incredibly stressful on the barrel. These do not last a long time. 300 rounds is the most I've ever heard of them lasting, but probably a lot less. Now, a couple interesting factors before we get into a few more tests here. You'll notice that there are these ports drilled into both sides right here. This is for two reasons. One, it was for one reason, that was to relieve a lot of the pressure. As that round begins to curve, that pressure behind the slug is just enormous. And if you notice, we have this big triangular thing right here. The reason for that was, as those gases were venting, they were actually venting right into the mirror right there, and it was, you know, obscuring it. So they added this to make sure that it was venting those gases off to the side. Now, if you come up right here, Micah, and take a look, you can see we have that rear sight right there built into the mirror. And then that corresponds directly to our front sight right here on the bent barrel. And this is actually a very simple system to take on and off. It simply indexes off the front sight and it screws right into place. There is a gap between the rifling of the STG and the rifling of that barrel that apparently didn't matter too much. But here's what we're going to test here. How accurate is this gun? How effective is it? So we're going to start at about 10 yards and we're going to continually walk this gun back, and we're going to see at what point we can no longer impact a target. I believe that it's shooting a little bit to the left. I'm going to aim right, but it seems to be center otherwise, and this is the first test ever of this bent barrel, so let's get after it. All right, we're going to go ahead and we're going to fire this, and at the same time we're also going to chrono it to see how fast it's going. Charles, you ready? Okay. That actually looks fine. I don't see any signs of tumbling. That looks...
What was the chrono?
2374.
That's actually cooking.
Let's chrono the regular STG right after and check that. I don't see any signs of tumbling or the round breaking apart at all.
Not what I expected, to be honest.
Okay, bent barrel got 2374. It was said that these barrels would decrease velocity. Let's see how it compares to the normal STG and see if we have any difference in velocity between them. It's going slower.
That is so weird.
It's going fast. Maybe it's the barrel length?
Yeah.
Okay,
well, I wouldn't think that yeah, it's going slower, but I wouldn't think the seal from the attachment to the barrel would even be that good, let alone the gas venting.
We have now stepped the target back to 20 yards, and we'll see how we're doing. 1 second, let me get on target. Charles, you ready? Yep. Oh.
It's going almost 100 FPS faster.
Dude, everything I've heard about this rifle so far is not true. I heard that it broke apart the bullets. I heard that the round was slower. The round looks like it's starting to hit, not completely stabilized at this point.
Yeah.
So it looks like
not
there's
straight.
a little bit of not straight.
It's a little sus.
A little sus. So I was aiming right here and I took the shot. This does not seem to be the most accurate gun. So I think we'll set up like 2 targets on either side just to make sure that we're catching the rounds since we can fire so few rounds. But we're at 20. Let's go ahead and let's step it back to 30 and let's see what we get on paper. We're now at 30 yards from the target. Let's go ahead and see what we're gonna get.
Did it miss?
I don't know. Hold on, let me check. I think it missed.
Oh, high. So high.
It does not appear that this weapon is particularly accurate.
So like 25.
about 25 yards. So we'll definitely say that at urban distances, that it seems to be pretty good. But I haven't seen any evidence that the round is breaking apart so far, or that it's going any slower. Do you like meat? Well, do you like your meat to have flavor? Well, then do we have a product for you? We have Firecracker Farms, proudly sponsoring today's video. Now, if you like it hot, Firecracker Farms hot salt might be about the tastiest salt you'll ever have. Now, the best part about it is it comes in these really cool stainless steel pushers, and you can do about 3 cracks of them, and you're gonna get a really, really tasty meal. Now, it is made with some pretty hot peppers, but you know what? If you're not too light, it's going to be absolutely perfect for you. The hot salt is made with Scorpion, Ghost, and Carolina Reaper. The absolute perfect amount of heat. Now, know this, Firecracker Farms is a small operation, just Alex and his family going all in on a product. And to be clear, they are donating 10% of all proceeds to the OP300, which helps Gold Star families and their children, and also to the Pipe Hitters Foundation. So we have a great company making a cool product that tastes delicious and donating to some good causes. We can't thank them enough for sponsoring this video. Go check them out. Checkout code GT will get you 15% off. Go check out Firecracker Farms, guys. What we're going to be talking about right here is going to be recoil. So the recoil on this weapon is really, really interesting because this is very heavy. It's a very unwieldy weapon to hold and to just bring around with you. And so the recoil wants to go straight back into you. However, the barrel, when the round exits, has a tendency to want to go up. So because of the angle that you're firing this, whether you're kneeling or otherwise, it's very odd how it's kind of going back into you. This would definitely suck to carry with you. But again, this is actually fairly easy to take off, which we'll show in just a moment here. But to demonstrate recoil, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to fire, and we'll try to hit steel right here at about 20, which is outer limit of this guy right here. Where was that? Dude, that round is it is inaccurate, brother. It ain't going where you want it to go, that's for sure. But you can see that recoil. You see how it wants to raise up on you, Micah?
Yeah, that was weird.
You got to take one shot with it to try it out.
All right, let me hit it.
It is a priceless weapon.
All right.
Like, look through it. It's so weird.
Wait, this is not what I expected. It's not perfectly straight.
You're
either.
aiming at the ground right now.
Oh. All right, ready?
Yep.
It's hard to put into words, like, because it's not unlike any other gun. It's like it tilts on an axis on your shoulder.
It's not good. So we're gonna give you the shooter's look through this guy. So to be clear, what you're looking through is that rear sight right up here and the front sight there. The traditional sights on the STG44 are not used when utilizing the mirror. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that on the target. Okay.
A little, just a flies here. A little less. Okay. To the right. Okay, pull the trigger.
You get it?
I mean, yeah, we got it, but we didn't hit it.
I think it needs to be pointed out, like, how difficult it is to look through that. And this is a fairly new example in the terms of not having been shot much. And this is still a fairly inaccurate weapon. Now, these didn't really see much service, and you can kind of see why, because it's kind of a fool's errand to try to curve a bullet and be effective. Like, this is not something I would have on a rifle, because it's just like you take a few shots and be like, this sucks, dude. Like, I'm just gonna boop, peek my head out instead.
Okay.
As you can see, like, shooting this is just, it's looking through that and taking the shot. Can you imagine using this in like a fast-paced combat environment where people are moving, there's explosions and gunshots are being shot at, and you're like sitting there looking through this tiny mirror, you're like, I'm gonna get you, you damn Americans.
You get to see like a 5x5 of the battlefield.
It just isn't it. Like, I understand you want to try to shoot from a concealed position if at all possible, but this was a little bit too fairy tale when it came to this particular weapon. But what we're going to do is I'm going to show you a couple really interesting little features on this guy that make this so bizarre. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and show you how to take this guy off. It's actually quite simple. So we have this screw that's putting tension, and it's a clamp. So we're gonna go ahead and loosen that up. And then once that's loosened up enough, you can simply take that off and pull it off the gun right there. And as you can see right here, we have this little slot right here for the front sight post. That's where the barrel sits in. And if you look into there, you'll see that it's slightly overboard compared to the normal rifling. There's actually a jump in rifling from the round exiting from this barrel right here before that slug then encounters the rifling of the bent barrel right here. What's the most interesting about that is in testing with the Germans, they found that they were trying to like line up the rifling to make sure it was like spinning at the same rate, and they realized it just didn't matter. Just whatever the rifling was, when it re-engaged, it was totally fine. Now, a couple things that we definitely noticed were that this entire barrel is rifled, but that didn't really seem to do anything for accuracy. The round was definitely destabilized, and due to the length of the slug, which we can show you right here, as that round is traveling down that barrel, it still is deforming as it passes that 30-degree curve right there. And because of that, as it exits, I believe that's what constitutes a lot of the inaccuracy that is being done to this particular system. I don't really think there's a way around that. A smaller, shorter bullet perhaps, but I think it's going to happen no matter what. Now, there was another version, well, several different versions. There's a 45-degree and a 90-degree, the 90-degree being made for tanks, but those shot out extremely quickly and were not very effective, although they were certainly made. Now, like we talked about before, there's a lot of pressures that have to be vented off of this. But one thing I want to talk about is this mirror system right here for sighting. I can only imagine carrying this through like Stalingrad or the Battle of Berlin with mud and dust and debris getting kicked up and getting into this, because you can see there are multiple planes on this mirror right here and on the front, and they're quite large. Like compared to an optic where you can at least keep those somewhat protected and recessed, this giant mirror right here is fairly open to the elements, and I think would definitely present a problem in any type of combat environment. You can see on our screws right here that they do have wire. That's to prevent those screws from backing out during intensive firing and stuff. And then we have the clamping mechanism. It
seals surprisingly well.
It seals surprisingly well. I didn't notice any amount of gas venting in this clamped portion right here. It seemed to all vent at those holes right there and work as intended. It didn't feel any different. I'm going to say this cautiously. It didn't feel any different from the traditional STG44 in terms of the overall recoil impulse. The only thing that felt different was the angle, because you're angling it up and you have so much weight out front. That was the only thing that felt really odd about this particular device. But I definitely feel very, is the word privileged? Is that right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Is privileged not a good word to use? I feel privileged that we were able to shoot this. As far as I know, we're probably one of the few people to have actually shot these because they are so rare. So we really hope that you guys have enjoyed watching us shoot this. We definitely, I believe, found kind of the limit of accuracy. Even with modern rounds and modern slugs, we weren't really getting past 25. And I don't believe that's a fluke. I don't believe that's because we couldn't aim or shoot. I do believe that that is an accuracy limitation. That's probably why, well, among several reasons, that these weren't really issued in combat, because of general problems with accuracy, and also it's unwieldy.
Even if I had that, I wouldn't use it.
Exactly. So you really didn't see these used. The STG44 by itself, a very effective, very good weapon. Adding this, this is kind of like Nazi fairy tale land right here. Just not a really great way of handling things. But kind of
Nazis kind of have a history of not having a great way of handling situations. Yeah.
But overall, this is a very simple device, but not a very good device. But it was a piece of history. It was a device, and it was a piece of history, and definitely a useless add-on. A lot of wasted time and materials when it comes to the general war efforts. But I'm glad that we could test it. I would say we definitely disproved a lot of the myths that surround this particular device. I know in the old Army videos they said that it both slowed down the slug and that it broke the slug apart. Maybe this could have been true for the older bullets that the Germans were making. I'm just inclined to believe that this was much like a lot of the early American propaganda where they'd have like an MG42. They'd be like, yeah, its bark is worse than its bite. Actually, the bark was about as probably not nearly as worse as the bite because it was an incredibly accurate, effective weapon. So we have the Grimloft device firing from the STG44. Probably not the most exciting video, but probably one of the most interesting videos in the fact that we found out that it fired faster, that it didn't break apart the bullets, and that it was pretty damn ineffective. So we hope you guys really enjoyed this particular video, and we have tons more cool things coming, so make sure you stay tuned. And that's all we have for you today. Final thing for you guys is going to be dad advice. The dad advice for today is, if you can't bench at least 225, well, then you're not a man.
Do I have to identify as, what do I identify as?
They, them.